Yeah. Just
Okay. I'm beginning to broadcast on Facebook, and I think we are live
yes,
there.
Mataji.
Yes, we are. Okay, this is good. This is very good. So we can close this. I can close this, search for this, zoom on this. Let me just forward this also to the Sankirtan group. So, and in the interest of time, I'll start with the prayers soon.
Yeah, I am the only one. Looks like Varshana Mataji will going to join, but not yet. She's there.
That's fine. That's okay. So where are we? The Facebook. Here we go. Okay, dear devotees, thank you for joining us here. We'll begin the session today with a brief prayer to the Special Master first. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padkamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Ladita Shri Vishakhanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So good to see you all here today, assembled
to see everybody. Hare Krishna, all smiling faces, everybody.
Hare
thank
Krishna.
you. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you, Mataji. So, in the interest of time, we're going to get going fast, make the most of the time that we have here. So, we are reading from the Brahma Samhita these days, and it is not an easy task. We all know that. So, we will start by sharing the screen because sharing is caring. And please confirm that you're able to see my screen when I start sharing it with you. And I am sharing it with you now. So let me know, where do we see that? What do you see on your screens? Do you see Brahma Samhita?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, so we have been talking about how Mahavishnu creates the universes that come out of the pores of his body. And then he also enters into this universe, into each and every of the universe he enters. And how does he enter? Then we saw in text number 5 that the Mahavishnu, he says the same Mahavishnu created Vishnu from the left limb, Brahma, the first progenitor of beings, from his right limb, and from the space between his two eyebrows, Shambhu, the divine masculine. And so the question over here is that when we learn about, just give me a second here. I'm just hearing some background noises, so I'm going to mute all of you. Okay, but you have the powers to unmute yourself. So yeah, so I was talking about that, how it says that Krishna or Mahavishnu enters into each and every universe. And then we saw in text number 15 that he created Vishnu from the left limb, Brahma, the progenitor of beings, from his right limb. And we talked about the left and the right. And from the space between his two eyebrows, he creates Shambhu. And so the question that can be asked is that when we look at the picture of the universe, and we have been talking about that he enters the universe and he's lying on the bottom part of the universe as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And so if he's lying on the bottom half of the universe as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, and from the navel of Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, Brahma is born, right? That's what we see in all the pictures. But here from this verse, it looks like it says the same Mahavishnu created Vishnu from his left limb. We can understand Garbhodakshayi, Kshirodakshayi, that type of creation. But Brahma, the first progenitor of beings, from his right limb. So one may ask that, is it Mahavishnu who is creating, or is it Garbhodakshayi Vishnu who is creating that question, who is creating Brahma, right? So we have to understand that in the scriptures, when these sages are speaking the scriptures, or Brahma is speaking, or other sages are speaking, or even Krishna is speaking, Sukdev Goswami is speaking, they sometimes will not make a distinction between the various incarnations of the Lord. So because Garbhodakshayi Vishnu and Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, they are kind of coming from Mahavishnu, then they sometimes will use the term Mahavishnu even for Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. So that is the reason that you will see here that it's saying the same Mahavishnu creates Vishnu from the left limb and Brahma from the right, and so on, right? And then last week we talked about how Shambhu, which is nothing but the glance of Krishna, right, the original, and then we have expansion of Shambhu also, and that expansion of Shambhu comes from between the two eyebrows. And the function of Shambhu in relation to Jivas is that this universe enshrining the mundane egotistic principle originated from Shambhu, which in other simpler words means that the false ego that we see in this material world, by which we identify ourselves with the body, right? By which we identify ourselves with this body, that is coming from Shambhu, and Shambhu controls that. So identifying ourselves with the body is the worst kind of ignorance that you can have, right? Ignorance is to know certain things, is to know the truth. And how far away from the truth can we be that we don't even know who we are, right? When somebody might say that you are ignorant, you don't know what the temperature in Antarctica is, or if you don't know the chemical formula of methyl alcohol, right? Then can say that's ignorance, then you don't know, you can get away with those things. But then to say, I don't even know who I am, that is the worst kind of ignorance there. And so that ignorance, that principle is Shambhu, and Shambhu controls that in this material world. So ignorance, the three modes of material nature, are thus governed by Shiva or Shambhu, who governs the mode of ignorance, and then Brahma, who governs the mode of passion, which is creativity, creating material things. And then there is Vishnu, who is the governor for mode of goodness, right? And then we're going to continue on. And one of the things that we also talked about last time was that the Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh that are created, or Shambhu or Shiva, like that. So there are different names for the Shiva Tattva, Shambhu Tattva. So it says that Mahavishnu created Brahma from his left limb, and which was Mahavishnu created Vishnu from his left limb, right? And we saw that the left side is the spiritual side, right? So this Vishnu that is created is spiritual and is transcendental, but Brahma, who comes from the right side of Mahavishnu, that is being created on the passionate side of it, and that is not the spiritual part, right? And then also the Shiva that is coming, or the Shambhu that is coming, or the Rudra that is coming, or the Mahesh that is coming from between the two eyebrows, there is also not on the transcendental plane. They are not similar to what Vishnu is, right? So then we are ready to go to our verse for today, which is text number 17. And Athate Sri Vidhe Leelam Udvahataha Kila Yoga Nidra Bhagavati Tasya Shri Riva Sangata Athate Sri Vidhe Leelam Udvahataha Kila Yoga Nidra Bhagavati Tasya Shri Riva Sangata. So Atha is thereupon, Te with those. So thereupon means that it's continuing on with the previous verses where we're talking about that how Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh are created. And thereupon, Te with those, threefold, Veshaha forms, the threefold forms, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, Leelam, pastimes, Udvataha, carrying on, Kila, indeed, Yoga Nidra is Yoga Nidra, Bhagavati, full of the ecstatic trance of eternal bliss. Tasya, of him, Shrihi, the goddess of fortune, Eva, like, Sangata, consorted with, right? So Sangha, associating or consorting with it. So in the translation, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, thereupon, the same great personal Godhead, so he's emphasizing the part that he has got a personality, that he has got a form. Right? So thereupon, the same great personal Godhead, assuming the threefold forms of Vishnu, Prajapati, and Shambhu, entering into the mundane universe, plays the pastimes of preservation, creation, and destruction. So the same great personal Godhead that has a personality, Mahavishnu, is a person. We saw that, the picture of him lying on the causal ocean with all the universes coming out of the pores of his body. So he has a personality, he has a form. And then from him come the other three forms. Vishnu is Vishnu, as we know. Prajapati is Brahma, and Shambhu we know is Shiva. And they enter into this mundane universe, which means into this material universe. And what does he do when he enters this? He plays the pastimes of preservation, that is through Vishnu, creation through Brahma, and destruction of this mundane world through Shambhu or through Shiva. This pastime is contained in the mundane world. So what he's saying is that this pastime of creating and destroying, creating and destroying, creating and destroying is contained in the material world. That means that this is something that happens in the material world all the time. Hence, it being perverted. So anything which is in the material, which is happening in this material world is not a natural thing. For example, we, the Jiva souls in this material world, we want to enjoy ourselves, right? That is not a natural thing for us to do. We want to enjoy here in this material world separate from Krishna. And that is not a natural thing for the soul to do. The soul is the happiest, the soul is in its natural state when it is surrendered to the Lord and when it is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasho Chiti Nakamshati Shubha Shubha Parityagi. So when the soul reaches that stage and understands Brahma Bhuta, understands who is Brahman, who is God, and understands his relationship with the Lord, and understands that I am the servant of the Lord, then what happens? Na shochati na kamshati, will not lament and will not desire anything because it's found the perfect relationship. Right? Sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. So then it'll treat all the various people similarly. Whether it's a dog, whether it's a cat, it'll look at all of them with a similar eye because it starts to see the soul in all of them. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. And then what happens? Okay, so you found that there is a God. And then you found that you are supposed to be the servant. You are hired by Krishna. You get the job offer. And now you start looking at all others, that they are also your colleagues at work. And then what do? Mad bhaktim labhate param. So Krishna says that in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that they then engage in the transcendental loving service of me, which means of Krishna. Like that, right? So that is the real thing to do. That is the real and the natural position of the Lord to do, right? But here, whatever the Lord is doing in the mundane world, everything is tinged with the modes of material nature. And Krishna doesn't have to do anything with it. He doesn't want to do much with the material energy. It's perverted, it's unnatural to want to enjoy the material world. So what does the Supreme Lord do? Because it's contained in the material world, hence it's being perverted. We talked about that. The Supreme Lord, identical with Mahavishnu. So we are saying the Supreme Lord is presented as Mahavishnu, and who's expanded here as Garbhodakshay, Kshirodakshay Vishnu. He prefers to consort or associate with the goddess Yoga Nidra, the constituent of his own spiritual chit potency. So what he does is he will have a relationship with Yoga Nidra. What is Yoga Nidra? With the goddess Yoga Nidra. That is an expansion of his own spiritual chit potency, which means Yoga Nidra is an expansion of Krishna's energy. And what is the name, one word that we use for Krishna's energy? What is the one
Radha.
word? Radha, yes, Chitra Mataji is Radha. First one to press the buzzer gets 750 points for that. So Yoga Nidra is just a constituent or an expansion or a part of his own spiritual chit potency, right? And which is Radha. And now he's describing Radha, and he's saying, what is Radha? Radha is the energy which is full of the ecstatic trance of eternal bliss, appertaining to his own divine personality. So this is saying that Radha Rani represents the trance of eternal bliss. And what is that bliss? That is something that we read in the very first verse of Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parma Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Satchit Anand Vigraha. So we said he's the embodiment. He's the form of Sat and Chit and Anand. Anand is eternal bliss. So he's saying here that Yoga Nidra, that he will consort with Yoga Nidra, who is a part of of Radha, who is his internal energy. And that energy is also representing, it pertains to his own divine personality, which is, Sat Chit Ananda. So that is how, although Vishnu will enter into this material world, you might see him doing material things, but he has got nothing to do with the material world. So in the purport, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur further explains, and he says the dislocated portions of the divinity. So divinity always means transcendental, right? Divinity is God, divine. So the dislocated portions of divinity. Dislocate means they have been separated. They are not in the right location. They have been removed. Like sometimes what happens, you say, I lifted a heavy item. And what happened? I dislocated my hand. So my arm is supposed to be here and dislocated, moved down, or moved left, or moved like that. So it's not in the right position. So similarly, these portions of the Lord, like Prajapati, which basically means Brahma, because his job is to create Praja, his job is to create more people. So the dislocated portions of divinity, namely Prajapati, which is Brahma, and Shambhu, which is Shiva. Now, here is the difference. See the difference? They're saying that Brahma and Shiva, what do? They both identify themselves as entities who are separate from the divine essence. They think that we are separate, although they have been created. We are also created from Krishna. We also think we are different from Krishna. So at that level, he's saying that Brahma and Shiva both identify themselves as entities who are separate from the divine essence, right? They are on the right-hand side, Brahma, or from his eyebrows, Shambhu. They are not on the left, they're not connected with the divine. So what do, right? So up there in the translation, we said that Mahavishnu is going to associate with goddess Yoganitra, and that is coming from a part of Radharani. So whatever Mahavishnu or his expansion, Vishnu over here is going to do is going to consort with, goddess Yoganitra. They're going to associate with that. So that is happening in the spiritual platform. However, Brahma and Shiva, because they identify themselves to be separate from the Lord, what they will do is they will associate or sport, right? And or consort with their respective non-spiritual consorts, right? Namely, Brahma's wife, known as Savitri, and Uma Devi, also known as Parvati, right? So here, if people have got questions as to which is material, which is spiritual, which is divine, which is mundane, this verse from Brahma Samhita is clearly telling, very, very clearly telling this thing, right? That Savitri Devi, Uma Devi, and Brahma, Shambhu, they're all on the material plane, right? So Savitri Devi and Uma Devi. So who are the Savitri Devi and Uma Devi? They are reflection. They are also coming from Radha. They're also coming from Radharani, but they are a reflection in this material world. So they are a perverted reflection, unnatural reflection of Radharani. The Supreme Lord Vishnu is the only Lord of the spiritual Chit potency, Rama or Lakshmi. So we have to understand this thing very clearly, that Shiva has got Uma Devi as the wife, and Brahma has got Savitri Devi as the wife, and the husband normally controls the wife in an ideal situation when both husband and the wife are ideal. And so we should not think, and this is very clearly being told here, we should not think that, oh, so Savitri is also an expansion from Radha, and Uma Devi is also an expansion of Radha, and because Shiva controls Uma and Brahma controls Savitri, so we can say that Shiva and Brahma are controlling Radharani. That is not the case, right? Here the last sentence is saying the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Supreme Lord Vishnu is the only Lord of the spiritual Chit potency, Rama or Lakshmi, right? So here we are talking about the spiritual Lakshmi or Radharani. So we have to understand Rama is another name of Radharani. So because of all these expansions and these alliances, relationships, sporting, and consorting, and so on, and associating, and so on and so forth, we should not forget the demarcations. We should understand that it's not, everything is just the same, and anybody is anybody. And because this kind of thinking will lead ultimately to the conclusion that I am also God, right? Like Shiva, oh yeah, he's just Krishna's glance. So yeah, he's God. And then, you extrapolate that, and ultimately I am also God, right? So that is something that we need to keep in our mind, that that is not really the case. So we are talking Brahma, you remember Brahma Samhita, the location of Brahma Samhita and where all these things are actually happening, is that in Brahma Samhita, Brahma has just been born from the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, right? And his job is to create. So Brahma Samhita will be about, Brahma and what he creates. And of course, he creates the material world. So there's a little explanation about what is in the material world and what is in the spiritual world also, so that we have the distinction there. But we have to understand the setting which is there. And so the setting is that Brahma has been born from the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. But prior to that, Brahma Samhita is telling you that from where does Garbhodakshay Vishnu come? From where does Kshirodakshay Vishnu come? From where does this universe come? So all those verses that we have been reading are setting the background for Brahma, what is Brahma going to do? This is Brahma Samhita, right? So it'll talk about Brahma. So what we have noticed here is, and you can see that in the pastimes of Krishna also. And that is that Yashoda, so Krishna's mother. So Krishna gets up in the morning and his friends will come to his home. Krishna, let's go for cow herding. And so Krishna will like to run away, like all kids, right? His friends have come. Who cares about breakfast? So then Radharani will, hold her back and say, no, you finish this first. You eat this first, right? Finish. All the mothers use this word, finish, so many times with their kids. So they say, you finish this thing first. And then she's packing lunch for him also. And then she's scared. So look at the love of the mother for the child. She's scared. And our dear Khyati Mataji is here. And I know that she has not been sleeping because of the little Keshavi who has arrived. So she will understand and relate to what it means, right? Like, did my child have enough food? So, so Radharani will just, Yashoda Maya will then, say, Krishna, I have a fear. I saw you run away just now from breakfast when I was here. And now you're going to go to the forest with your friends and you all are going to play and you will not eat the food. So then she will call one of his friends, the more responsible one, and say, can you please make sure Krishna will eat the food? Then he'll say, yeah. But she knows. Then she will say, okay, let's do one thing. Why don't you eat half of the lunch now? She'll make him eat that like that, right? So that is a mother's love, which is just a reflection of Krishna's love. So if you look at Yashoda, she can't bear that separation. A few hours that Krishna is going to go and be in the forest, and by the time he's going to come back home, is he going to eat properly? Is he going to be hurt? Is he going to sleep? All that kind of things she's going to worry about. And if Yashoda had a choice, Yashoda would have followed Krishna to the forest. Right? And you have noticed that everything that we do is actually a reflection of Krishna, and that is something that Krishna would also want to do. And this is what Krishna actually also does. Krishna follows us like Radha. Krishna follows us into this material universe. And that is why you see how Vishnu, who is lying in the causal ocean, he's in a transcendental plane. Causal ocean is transcendental water. So he's there in the transcendental waters, but he expands as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. He expands as Kshirodakshay Vishnu. Why? Because all of us are here in this material world. Through his glance, which was Shambhu, he transferred the souls into the material nature. And now these souls are going to take different kinds of bodies. And they're going to be here in this material world. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Mata Pita. I'm the mother and I'm also the father. So the mother cannot bear to be separated. So the mother follows. So Krishna is luckier than Yashoda. Yashoda could not do that. but Krishna follows. And how far does he follow? Tell me. Unmute yourself and tell me, how far does Krishna follow you in this material world?
Till the last breath of
The
our
last
life.
breath of it. Yeah, last
Okay.
breath of our life.
Okay, very good. And how
Even
close?
after that.
Even after that also,
you see.
he'll go after the soul. You'll see
Okay,
where it's
good.
going to.
And how closely does he follow? So sometimes you see in a movie, you'll see that there is a jasus, a spy, right? He's following the hero, and the hero is walking, and the spy is 1 block away, and or the heroine is being followed by the gundas, right? And she doesn't know, she's returning home from work, and this bad man is following her, and of course the hero is also there somewhere. And then suddenly she turns and looks like that, and then the gunda or the spy who's following, they'll also duck and they'll try to hide because they don't want to follow too close, right? How close does Krishna follow you?
He is in our heart, Mataji, in the
Heart.
form of
All
Paramatma.
of
He's
us.
always with us.
All of
There
us.
you go. So you see how closely
Thank
he's following you. And he's very closely there. All that we have to do is to listen to him. He's telling us, right? But we don't listen. And he tells us and he talks to us through many different ways. He will tell us. One is a very inactive way. So if you can all mute yourself. One is a very inactive way, and that is through the form of shastras, he speaks to you, right? So things are there. You have to be active. You have to pick up the shastras and read it or listen to it, like that. It's the onus is on you. And if you follow the shastras, then it's all good. He says, in the beginning, I set forth generations. We read that in 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? And then he also created the Vedas, which is shastras, right? So I have created you, the food processor, and I have also, right? We are food processors, isn't it? Food goes here. We process it. And so we are the food processor, but we come with a manual. Just as a food processor comes, your Vitamix and your bullet mixies, they all come with a manual, right? Similarly, we also come with a manual, the Vedas, the Gitas, the Brahma Samhitas, the Srimad Bhagavatas. You have to read the manual to operate the device properly. If you don't read the manual, then disaster is going to happen, right? So he does that. He talks to you like that. If that is not enough, then he's there in your heart. And I was telling you, what was the reason behind Krishna being in your heart? And the original reason, the original cause of that is his love for Krishna. For you, is his love for us, that he's there, like Yashoda Maya, wanting to follow Krishna into the forest. He's there. So there's a lot of love. And so that is the second way Krishna talks to you, is through what we call as the voice of conscience. Krishna is speaking to you, right? Now, Krishna resides in the area of the heart. But in the area of the heart, also they say that the mind also resides there, right? And mind is also a chatterbox. It also likes to talk. And so how do you distinguish? How do you think? How will I ever distinguish between this is something that the mind is saying versus this is something that God is saying to me? How do you distinguish?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, mind is a chanchala. It takes away us from Krishna, whereas Krishna
Bring it back.
always tries to keep us close to him.
So if someday in the morning a voice comes to your mind which says that don't go for Mangalarti because you have worked hard very hard last night, and you have a human body and you should preserve it. Is it the mind telling you, or is it Krishna telling you?
It's the Maya, Mataji. Maya.
Why? Why
Mind,
is it the
mind is
But why?
Mind is
mind.
Why is the mind telling you? It's a
Because
human
it's
body.
chanchal.
Krishna
It's
says that,
chanchal.
Mataji,
But then human body is the only body that you get for doing devotional service to the Lord. And why should you not preserve it?
Mataji, I usually rely on, I ask myself, is this coming from my tendency or is this coming from my, so laziness? If I have identified previously that is my tendency, then I know the answer that I'm trying to justify, that I'm tired, that's why I'm not going, I want to preserve my body. All these comes from my tendencies that I have accumulated over a period of time, rather than what Krishna is saying, right? If Krishna is saying, then we would just pray in that humble mood that Krishna, please give me the energy to take your darshan, and Krishna will do the rest.
But I can also say that Krishna, with equal humility and equal conviction, I can say that Krishna, I really want to preserve this body.
Yeah, so preserving the body is like best utilized when it is in Krishna consciousness, right?
Is it? Always?
Most of the time, Mataji, unless there is like really very
Right.
difficult circumstances.
Right. So do discuss. Okay, now let's take the question. Do difficult circumstances come in our lives?
Yes,
Yes,
Mataji.
they do, Mataji.
They do.
They do all the time, right? So it is very difficult to distinguish. For example, one of Prabhupada's disciples came and told him that, Prabhupada, you came into my dreams last night and you were asking me to smoke marijuana. Prabhupada coming in his dream like that, right? How to understand? Is it Prabhupada who's telling me, or is it my mind who's telling me? The dream is
My
dream
mind.
can come from mind, right?
My
So that is where how to distinguish, it'll be difficult to distinguish. Why did Khyati Mataji say that I look at it because I know I have anarthas and they have accumulated? How did she know that anarthas accumulate? How did she know that anarthas can accumulate not only from this life, but they can accumulate from previous lives also? How do you know? They
in
teach you in
Shastras.
college.
Guru and
In-
Shastra has
Shastra, Guru and
educated us.
Guru
Shastra.
and Shastra.
Guru and Shastra.
Exactly. So you see that that is the reason that for us to be able to distinguish between the voice of Paramatma, Shirodakshay Vishnu, and the voice of our mind, we need to take shelter of the Shastras and we need to take shelter of the Guru, right? Unless and until we don't do that one, which is a medium through which Krishna is speaking, we will not be able to make the best use of the second way in which Krishna speaks to us, and that is through the voice of Paramatma, because we'll be confused between is it Krishna saying or is it the mind saying, right? So you see, that is why Shastras are required. A little bit of knowledge is required. Knowledge is not the ultimate end, right? Our approach should not be that I want to understand everything about Krishna through the Shastras. And once I understand Krishna, I'm done. That is not the approach, right? Our approach is that of bhakti, like that, right? And the third way in which Krishna talks to us, right? The first is subtle, Shastras are there. Second is Paramatma, the whisper of love, right? Whisper. It can get subdued. You have to be listening and tuned very carefully to be able to hear somebody whispering to you. And the third is the loudspeaker of misery. So when you are miserable, that is also one way we will remember Krishna. And Krishna speaks to you and tells you that you were in love with this material world. This is what you get. You want more of it? Or you want to surrender? Sarv dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshasmam matajaha. Why? Because he wants you back. He wants you back and he's trying everything. He gave you the manual and you are not following it. Then he whispers, you're not following it. Then you get it, right? That's the 3-step communication process that is used. Right? So Krishna here, he comes into this material world and he engages in his pastimes, right? So there's a very interesting word. There are a bunch of verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, second chapter, which is Divinity and Divine Service, the much acclaimed chapter. And in that chapter, towards the end, it talks about how Krishna creates this material world and then he enters it. And the last verse of that chapter says, Bhavyata eva satvena lokan vai loka bhavana lila avatar anurato devatiriyan nar adishu. So what it says is that Krishna creates all this world and then he enters into all these worlds. We understand Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Shirodakshay Vishnu. And then that is not enough. What he will also do is that Bhavyata eva satyana lokan vai loka bhavana, according to the feelings of the people, according to the feelings of these souls who have now materialized in this universe with the help of Brahma, for those people, for the sentiments and desires and the moods of these people. Lokan vai loka bhavanaha, according to the bhavana of the people who are there, us souls, what he does, he incarnates. Leela avatar anurato. He will come as his Leela avatar. And how he will come? Devatiriyan nar adishu. That he will come and incarnate in the species of devas, demigods, Tiriyan, animals, Nara, human being, Adishu, etc. So, how many species are there? You know that. How many are there? Somebody can. Huh?
84 million.
84 what?
Lakh.
Right?
84 lakh.
8 lakh species, right? Or 8,400,000 as we speak in this part of the world, right? So there are 8,400,000 species of the life, and Krishna incarnates in all of them. All of them. We know of some incarnations. So can you give me some incarnations of Krishna in the animal form of the Lord, of the world, in this material world?
Boar. He came as a boar.
He came as a boar, yes.
Fish.
As a fish, Matsya.
Kurma.
Kurma.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And
Does he come as a horse?
He will come. No, not as a horse, but he will come. Kalki will come on the horse.
Kalki.
Okay, so Kalki is what form?
He's a human, I think.
Human, right? Nara Adishu, the human form, right? A horse,
Vamana.
Vamana. Yeah.
Vamana is not animal.
Vamana is not animal. Yeah, what is Vamana?
Human.
Human.
Is Vamana human?
Draft.
No.
Draft.
Drafts are not human?
Yes, Mataji, they are.
But what's special about Vaman? Is he human species?
Yeah,
Yes,
he's a small boy. He comes like a small boy.
Okay, but Vamana is whose brother? Vamana is whose brother? Vamana is somebody's brother, right? We know that, right? Why was Vamana, why does Vamana take incarnation? What's the story there?
Because he wants to test, who is that? Bali Chakravarti.
Bali.
No, okay, that's one of the secondary reasons. Primary reason Vamana is born.
Oh, yeah. Vamana is there.
Okay, Vashana.
Mataji, he came to this earth to, because Bali he wanted to, you see, take away
Festival
everything
Chakra.
from the Bali, and he pushed him down to the
No, no, no.
No,
Patal
not
Loka.
that.
No. That is secondary thing. But tell me the main reason. Yes, Bali. Why did he want to take everything from Bali? Okay, answer that question, and you'll get the answer. Why did he want to take
Because
everything from Bali?
Mataji, he was becoming superior to Indradev, and Indra was scared that everything will go to him and he will take my position. And that is why he requested him, and that is how he came on this earth to keep Indra in his position.
Right, and just to embellish, just to tweak it a little bit, Bali had already defeated Indra. He had already taken everything that Indra possessed. And that's when Indra's mother, Aditi, prayed. And then Vamana was born. So Krishna comes in the demigods. Indra is a demigod. Vamana is Indra's younger brother. So that's why this verse that said, Deva Tiryan Nar Adishu. He comes in all the species, 80,
Who's younger brother, Mataji? Who's younger brother?
He's Indra's younger brother.
Yes, younger
He's
brother.
born from Indra's mother. Yeah. He comes through Indra's mother. He's Indra's younger brother. And so that is why that's an example of Krishna taking an avatar in the demigods. Deva Tiriyan Naradishu. So you have to remember that he could be born even in the ant family of an ant. Because he just wants at whatever form there you are. We don't know what the ants do. We don't know what the ants do. We have no idea. One ant, all the ants are dancing on one ant. You don't know what is happening there. That middle one could be Krishna. We don't know. But we rely on the Shastras when they say that Devatiriyan Naradishu, that means that that he takes incarnation in all of these species of life. How many species of life are there? There are different species of life. And there's a very nice verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that says that. And let me share it with you here, and we'll go through that quickly. Here. And so says, in this universe, there are limitless living entities in 8,400,000 or 8 lakh species, and all are wandering within this universe. And that is why it says that Brahmande Brahmite Kon Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beej. Right? So we are Brahmaning, we are wandering. Now this planet, now that planet. Now the heavenly planet, now the hellish planets, right? Now back to Earth, now again, India to America. America to the moon, from a moon to the sun, from the sun down to the hellish planets. The Brahman, you are on an excursion, right? They are limitless entities, and in the purport, Prabhupada, quotes from the Vishnu Puran and says, Jalaja Nava Lakshani, Thavara Laksha Vimshati, Krimayo Rudra Sankhya, Pakshinam Dasha Lakshanam, Trimsha Lakshani Pashavaha, Chatur Lakshani Manushaha. Now he's telling you of these 84 million species, 88,400,000 species of life, he's saying that 900,000 species live in the water. 900,000 species. Now here's a very interesting thing that science tells us. Science says that, science discovers things. And every now and then they say we have discovered a new species of fish or a new amphibian or a new type of what is that? Fish or an insect or a reptile, a bird, butterfly. So they're always discovering new things, right? And so they also dive into the seas and they find new types of things in the seas. And they say that we don't know how many species are there in the sea. We are still trying to find that out. And we have discovered about 10% of them. The question arises that if you don't know how many species are there in the water, how can you say that you have discovered 10% of them? Right? If you don't know. Like if you knew that you had to cook 100 chapatis and you cooked 10 of them, then you can say, I have made 10% of the chapatis. But if you didn't know how many are there, how can you say? Right? So we are so blind in following, and we just don't even question that statement, right? How much of a logic is required to question that statement? It's such a simple thing, right? But if you look at the Shastras here, Vishnu Puran clearly telling you the numbers, 900,000 in the living water. So if the scientists will spend $250, if there are any scientists listening to this talk, please contact me. We are moving towards Bhadra Purnima, where we are trying to distribute thousands of Bhagavatams all over this world. Please contact me and we'll talk more about that. But this is what it's telling you, clearly our Shastras tell you this. So there are 900,000 species living in the water. There are 2 million non-moving living entities. Non-moving means trees and plants. Examples, right? There are also 1,100,000 species of insects and reptiles. They're very precise, 1,100,000, very clear. Insects and reptiles. And there are 1 million species of birds. As far as quadruplets are concerned, those with 4 legs, there are 3 million varieties, and there are 400,000 human species that look like us, right? Some of these species may exist on one planet and not on the other. But in any case, within all the planets of the universe, and even in the sun, there are living entities. This is the verdict. Prabhupada says this is the verdict, and that's it. As the judge has a verdict, that is how the Shastra is also providing the verdict. No questions asked, right? This is the verdict of the Vedic literatures, right? And Prabhupada is further explaining that it says, Na jayate mriyate va kadachin, nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya, ajo nityaha shashvatoyam purano, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. We had done this verse when we were doing the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It says, for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. It does not come into being, will not come into being, is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval, is not slain when the body is slain. So all that happens is the soul will transmigrate, move from one species into another species, and it can move in all these 84 million species of the life, depending on what type of a desire you had. To fulfill your desires, you will get a suitable body. Also to suffer the reactions of your karma, or even to enjoy the reactions of your karma, also you will get a species of the life. So it's a combination of all these, your desires and your karma. Because of the two together, you will get a suitable body. And in that, you will continue to roam around in this material world. All along, you will just do that, right? And so to reclaim means that, something was falsely taken away by somebody and you reclaim, right? Somebody takes away your property and then you go to the court and the court stamps an order and now the other person has to give it back. So you reclaim, right? Similarly, if the sea comes and covers a portion of the land, you can reclaim that land. Like this Foster city where I'm sitting here right now is reclaimed, right? It was under the sea a few years ago till they filled it up and then they reclaimed the land. So there's a reclaim. Something is not in the right possession usually, and then you reclaim them. Reclaim your throne. Somebody fought like Indra. All his possessions were taken away by Bali, and then he took the help of Vamanadev to reclaim his rightful position. So similarly, what Krishna also does, and this verse from Brahma Samhita today is telling us that, and it's saying that Krishna takes incarnations in all the species of life. Why? Because this soul can go and reside in any species of life. And what he tries to do is to reclaim that soul from that material body and take it back to Goloka, Vrindavan. And that is the reason that he's taking so many incarnations in all the species of life. So all that we have to see is the loving intentions of the Lord. And in any of these incarnations, he will behave like Krishna. It doesn't matter how old you are, he is. As a 3-year-old, as a 5-year-old, he will behave like Krishna. He'll be able to lift the Govardhan Parvat. As a 100-year-old or 125 years old, he will still be able to do the same thing because he's Krishna. He's not affected by time. But we are human beings in the sense that, we are identifying ourselves with this body. And so we are limited with whatever this body can perform. So what little Keshvi can do right now, other than, wetting the diapers and, shouting when she's hungry, she'll be doing much more. She'll be reciting shlokas by the time that she's 3, right? And then she'll be teaching these classes by the time she's 15, like that, right? So as the age progresses, people start to do certain things. And then as the decline comes, they stop doing some of the things. But Krishna in his incarnations will not do that. And when you see him acting in this way, that is what is going to attract our mind towards Krishna. And that is the reason he has these pastimes, so that they are very attractive. And that is why you see that these pastimes are full of wonder, because the mind otherwise will not get attracted, right? If Amitabh Bachchan can, bash 20 gundas, then Krishna has to bash 1,000 for you to, for you to leave Amitabh and go to Krishna, like that. So that's why his pastimes are, huge, like that. So that's the, essence of today's verse, that's talking about Krishna expands, but then 2 parts of Krishna are still in that mundane, Shiva and Brahma. But Krishna, when he comes here, he's completely pure, and then he adds a little bit more by taking incarnation again and again in this material world. So I'll stop here. There are a few more minutes, and I can see a hand that is raised. Varshana Mataji is asking a question.
I can see the little
Mataji,
baby.
I was about to. I want to ask you, Mataji, that this one, the scientists say that 10% of it, probably some scientists must have read the Vedas, and that is how he came to that 90,000 species are there. So 10% of it only we know.
That's a good thought. If you think that scientists are thinking and they're making, I'm so very happy. Now, here's something I want to show you. One species.
Oh, go cute. You're listening.
Oh,
Hare Krishna,
Mataji,
Mataji.
class.
Hare
Okay, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Blessings.
Oh, she's so
Hare
cute.
Krishna.
She has lots of hair.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, look at
Come
that.
on, little smile, little
She's
smile.
a good girl. She's a good girl, that you can see.
So quiet.
So quiet.
Yeah,
Are you
I think
quiet?
this is like
More
the
than
time
good
for her to sleep, but I think she doesn't want to sleep. She wanted
She wants to
see
listen
you
to
all.
class.
So
Is that right?
She is
Love to
joining
see
the
that.
class.
Keshvi.
Small smile.
Keshvi, see, all the Matajis is giving you blessings.
God bless you, Hare Krishna.
Say Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
There's so
Hare
many
Krishna.
devotees who give you
Keshvi.
blessings before and now.
She's saying something. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Say
Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna.
Hare.
Oh, she
I
is
will
raising her
send
hand.
the
She's
video
raising her hand.
of her Prashadam prayers.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you,
nice
Kathy,
to
for
see you.
sharing. Beautiful
Thank you,
moment.
Kathy.
Thank you so much, Khyati.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for all your blessings.
Love to see you like that.
We are
With the
just so
baby.
very happy. So very happy.
Yeah, and we are also very happy, Mataji, to attend the class after such a long time. I hope we fall into some kind of routine and then able to join the class regularly.
This is good. This is very good. And Keshvi is cooperating with you nicely.
Yes.
Yeah. Just in the morning today, I was just thinking that, when will Khyati join? Like, in the sense that when will you get a little freed from this new responsibility that you have to be able to join the class? But this is fantastic.
Yeah, we wanted to join last Saturday, but I think last Saturday something came up and we couldn't join. So we thought this Saturday is like the perfect timing.
Very nice. Very nice. Let us all
Yeah,
chant
she slept
this
and woke up, and now again she slept.
She slept, yeah.
Uh-oh.
She slept. Oh, look at that. How cute. Yeah.
So
Oh,
I think
proud
for
father is
attending the
there.
class,
Proud father is there. Ah.
yes, he
She
is
has
managing
beautiful,
everything.
Mataji, she has beautiful hands, long fingers, and
Yeah.
beautiful.
Eyes, yeah,
Lots of
eyes.
hair, long fingers.
So we were telling her
Oh.
to learn the music from Dhriti, the way Dhriti plays.
Very good. Dhriti must be
You know,
eager to teach her.
as soon as father
Yes.
took, she's sleeping.
Yes.
She was quite awake when Kathy Mata was holding.
She knows, right?
Prabhuji was
Father
awake.
puts her to sleep.
Yeah.
Father knows how to keep her.
Yeah, she's so small. Look, she comes in the palm of his hand. See?
Yeah,
She's so
they'll
tiny.
grow taller than us. Oh.
She's listening. Okay, if you're listening, Kathy, we're going to chant Hare Krishna mantra 3 times for you. Okay?
Sure.
All of
Thank you
us
so much.
together.
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare Hare, Hare
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 Krishna,
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 Hare
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 Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
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 Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
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 Rama
Hare
Rama
Rama,
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 Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare
Hare.
Hare
Hare.
Hare
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Lord.
Bol. All right. So on that happy note, we'll take leave of Keshvi and of everybody.
Mataji, I thought of
Yeah.
asking you one question, Mataji.
Okay, go ahead, ask.
You said Brahma's wife's name is
Savitri.
huh?
Yeah, he has different. She comes as different names.
Savitri,
I'm
you
just going
said,
by what Shastra
but
says.
I
Yeah,
thought it's Saraswati, no? No?
yeah. It must be a different name of Saraswati, like that. Sometimes Sachi. All I hear different kinds of names there. So
Okay. That's what
just go
I
by the.
thought. And like you
Okay.
said, Yasoda Mataji was giving food and other things. It reminded me today morning. My son-in-law went to Cleveland to see my granddaughter, and both husband and wife, they're taking turns. They're in stress, very much stress. So he went there, and because they had to vacate her room and everything. So I packed lots of cooked food and some vegetables only. I just packed and I sent it through my son-in-law. And my son was saying, "How much food you packed?" He was saying, brother-in-law was saying that you packed a truck full of food.